All right, great. Well, good morning, everybody. I think fortunately, I've had fairly extensive conversations, I think, with everybody on this call, except Steve. I'm not sure we've met.
First time in the group. Nice to meet you. Looking forward to what you're sharing with us.
Okay, well, thank you. So yeah, so I'll kind of take everybody through it. I mean, let me sort of start at the beginning, and then I'll kind of take everybody through it, although I think everybody on this call is fairly familiar. In fact, Jason, I think I spoke to Jason, what was it, like yesterday about this. So that's great. So let me make a general statement and then a specific statement to what Michael said. So generally what I do is I help my connections monetize their connections. And it's a two-step process, basically. There's a number of companies I work with for whom I find them new clients, on a commission basis. So I reach out to my network, I look for opportunities, and then I make introductions to these companies for which I'm compensated. And it's really, introductions as opposed to a full sales process. So I don't, write up SOWs or proposals or things like that. It's really more like, hey, I've got this company, they're doing something interesting, and for example, somebody in this group or somebody I know might potentially use them. We have a little discussion, and then I try to bring the client into the process as quickly as possible. So that's step one. Step two is that, with the philosophy that, we're all out there networking these days, and you never know who somebody else knows, is what I do is I also reach out to my network, especially folks that I know fairly well, like the ones in this group, and say, look, here's some companies I'm working with. Here's what they're looking for. Do you know anybody, whether it's in your professional line of work or whether it's your next door neighbor or your cousin or whomever? And if they might be interested, then we put the deal together, and then we all, share in the proceeds. So along those lines, I've had some conversations, I think, with everybody in this group, as well as some other folks who aren't on the call today. And I think, given that my sense that's kind of why Michael set this group up in the first place. So we can kind of, get to know each other, share potential connections, and hopefully generate some business for each other. I think it's been a terrific model. So I've had, gotten great feedback from the folks on this call. It's gotten some really interesting introductions and connections. So I'm hoping to continue that, as well as try to find ways that I can help, each of you with what you're trying to do in your specific businesses. So by way of background, that's the general statement. In terms of the specifics, I think since I've spoken to each of you about FetchPro, and as Michael said, that's really where I'm spending most of my time. Why don't I go through it in more detail, probably maybe a little bit more graphically than we have in our prior conversations, but I'm happy to take questions along the way. And then obviously, happy to have a conversation with anybody offline afterwards. So maybe just starting from the beginning, the idea behind FetchPro and why I'm spending so much time is it is, for better or for worse, probably an ideal product for the times that we're stuck in, all this COVID craziness, especially where people are working from home. So the basic idea behind FetchPro, which is a very straightforward product, which is another reason that I like it, is that it enables internet access when you're out of the office. So when we started pitching this in January, February, we were really talking to people who had two criteria. Number one, they were very security conscious. And number two, they tended to be out of the office or travel a lot. So this included law firms, accounting firms, other financial services. Healthcare was big, and money managers and IT firms. So if you were a professional where you were out of the office, you needed an internet connection, you didn't want to be on public Wi-Fi, and you needed something fast and secure, then we were the right product for you. And we were getting a lot of interest from some very big organizations pretty much right off the bat. Then, of course, the virus struck. So we've taken some time to retool the product and really look at it. Another big opportunity is people who are working from home, because either you still need a solid connection, and I think everybody on this call is working from home, and at the same time you want it to be secure. or if you're running a company, you want it to be secure. You're particularly concerned about how your employees are accessing your corporate assets. So let me kind of take you through this. And certainly if there's any questions along the way, please let me know. So here's the problem that we're trying to solve, is that it's hard to get a fast, secure, and stable internet when you're outside the office. Often it can be unavailable. Let's say if you're driving or if you're in a place with poor connections, it can be slow and unstable, or it's not secure. So for example, if you are, if there's HIPAA requirements, there's confidentiality, and there's also things like our client is the guys who invented this are federal government contractors. They've done a lot of, especially regarding the Department of Defense. So there's requirements from the National Institute of Standards and Technologies. It's called NIST 800-171 that governs how you're supposed to handle even unclassified information. So you're not supposed to be, for example, on public Wi-Fi. And so they developed this originally to solve their own problem because they were a startup. This was like 8 years ago. They were working out of a Panera before they had their own offices, and they needed a way to connect. So they're not supposed to be on public Wi-Fi. They tried the hotspots you get with your cell phone, and they didn't like those either. So being the software guys that they are, I'm sure Michael can appreciate this, they developed their own solution. So they created a workaround, and they used it for several years until they realized that they could use that this was a potentially commercial product. And so my partners and I have been working with them throughout the year to help them commercialize this and get this out, kind of in the enterprise market. Okay. So the idea behind FetchPro, and I'll take you into a little more detail, is that it's secure, it's fast and stable, and it's economical. Again, I know those are kind of big claims, but let me tell you how it works. It's very straightforward. So all you do is you download an app to your smartphone. And so we have the apps on both of the stores, the App Store and the Google Play Store. And then you download and you run an app on your computer. So you've got the right software in both locations, and then you connect the two with your charging cable, your USB cable, and essentially that's it. So we have patent pending technology that governs the transmission of information from your laptop to your cell phone. So for example, somebody was asking me this morning, how fast is it? So it's as fast as your smartphone, because the phone is essentially your conduit or a modem, and that's what connects you to the internet. And so this does not go through the hotspot functionality. We bypass it and through a different channel. So that's all there is. Software on the app, software on your phone, software on your computer, charging cable, and that should be it. Ideally, once it's installed, you never really pay attention to this again. So every time you need to online access, you just connect it to, just make sure you've got the cable, and it just runs in the background. Okay. So what we did was, since we had this capability, we added some stuff on top of it, especially to make it more secure. Now, obviously, it's very secure already because it's connected by the cable. And as my client likes to say, you can't hack a cable. Right? So, but on top of that, we wanted to address some of the concerns that we thought CTOs might have about the level of security. So a couple of the user settings are, one is we can block it so you can only go to an HTTPS site. You can only go to a secure website. Right. So that's one way to kind of, especially if you're a CTO and you want to kind of control what your employees are doing. So that's one potential setting. The second is that we encrypt all the DNS requests that are made by your consumer browser. And therefore, we're trying to make you invisible to anybody who might be out there. So let's say you are working from a Starbucks, even though you're not using their Wi-Fi. If you had a regular hotspot on your phone, as I'm sure everybody knows, right? The phone is broadcasting. So other people could potentially hop onto your hotspot or at the very least, they know that you're there. With our system, because you've got the wire and also
5 minutes left, Victor.
Sorry, 5 minutes.
You're
Okay.
at the 10-minute mark.
Okay, great. So, because of the cable and because of the encryption, you're essentially invisible to anybody who might be kind of trolling around at the Starbucks. Also, what we do is that because we go through your phone, we filter out any software, any malware. So we, rather than, because I know there's a lot of cybersecurity programs where once it identifies it, once it's on your computer, and then maybe it quarantines it. While it does that, what we do is we make sure it doesn't get there in the first place, and then finally, we make sure that it's, that it's really invisible to you. So we don't want to slow down the system or burden the system. So that's basically it. I'll show you a schematic in just a second, but we've had the product out there for about 2 years. So we've gotten really good press. We've also got articles from ZDNet, which I think I might have sent a lot of you folks. Happy to send you again. We've also gotten an article from a thing called Cyber Law Journal, which is basically covers cybersecurity issues from a legal point of view. The consumer version has been in the App Store for about 2 years, and it protects only web browsers, not apps like I guess we're all using here for Zoom. But we've got over 1,300 people already using it. And then what we've done is then taken the consumer version and then, as I said, turned it into an enterprise version. So we've got it out there. It's being used by individuals. It's being used by law firms and various other folks. So let me just kind of leave you on this note. So I hope everybody can see this, but basically the idea is you have your computer, you have your phone, and you connect them with a cable. I mean, that's it, right? So hopefully you get high speed, it's stable, and it's secure. As we talked about, the tricky part with home Wi-Fi is, there's security issues. We actually add security to a VPN because the tricky part with a VPN is, you have to get from your computer to the VPN, whether it's Wi-Fi or some other mode. So there's an area of vulnerability. We're more stable than the hotspot, and we're more secure than a public Wi-Fi. So that's basically it. It's fairly straightforward. Would love to talk with anybody, and I know we've had conversations, but any ideas anybody has about folks who need this, especially companies or firms that have large remote workforces, I think would be a perfect candidate for us. And I know I've had, this discussion with everybody, I guess, except you, Steve, and I'm, happy to chat with you afterwards as well. Especially because I also like to know what you do. So.
Thank you. There's about 2 minutes left for questions. I had a question here.
Sure.
It looks like you say it's faster than a hotspot. How is that so? I mean, I both connect to your, I guess your data plan, but where does it get faster?
Sure. There's a couple ways that can happen, Michael. That's a good question. One is that often data plans follow a different path for the hotspot.
I see.
So the hotspot, for example, can be subject to throttling in ways that your basic unlimited data plan is not. So that's one element. The second is that because we don't use the hotspot, we found it to be more stable than the hotspot itself. I mean, I've actually doing that, kind of consumer research, have had people on New Jersey Transit. I've watched them, they're trying to do stuff. They're trying to work on the train using their hotspot, and it will blip in and out. And they've just kind of accepted it as, that's how hotspots function. And we've been able to really maintain really solid connections. So especially if people are on Zoom, right? You don't want to be blipping out. You don't want to lose the audio or the video. And we found that it's been very, very useful to people, things like that.
Okay, cool. So Jonathan had made a comment that hotspots usually are not tethered to the machine, so that helps explain that as well.
Yes,
John Patch,
good point.
Is there an implementation process, and how long does that take?
The implementation process is, for anybody on this call, we would just send you a license code, and then you just connect it, and it should be a matter of minutes to get the software on the phone and on the computer. And then after that, it's essentially sitting in the background. And one of the things that comments from folks have been helpful with is, we're very comfortable with the product itself. And then, one of the things that the folks in this group have been terrific with is helping us kind of work through some of the user experience questions, both on the marketing. We got a lot of feedback from Jason yesterday on that, as well as the onboarding process, once people download it. But, as a product, it's a subscription service that we're charging $18 a month. But for obviously everybody in the call, we can set you up. We'll get you a free license code. I know Raul, I'm waiting to get you one. And I was actually speaking to Larry Joseph this morning, who said he needs it because, Comcast in his area is terrible. So, we'll probably get him set up pretty quickly as well.
Oh, great.
And I know Audrey had some questions about it. So, we want to make sure, we want help. That's one thing the team has been great at, is helping us iron out some of the marketing and the documentation bugs.
Well, thank you. That clarifies a lot for me. I know, I've been on it a couple of times, and it seems to work quite well.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you for your time on this and for the presentation. If people have follow-up questions, they can certainly reach out to Victor either directly, LinkedIn, or via our Slack workspace. So I am going to move to, let's see, speaker view, and we'll start with Audrey has to leave, so she's going to go first, then Mark, and then John. And we'll do 2 minutes. So if everybody could go on mute so it doesn't switch mode in the middle. Audrey, why don't you take it away?
Good morning, everybody. Audrey Glover-Dichter. I'm in warm South Florida. I am an attorney. I'm a solo practitioner, but I focus on federal law, so it doesn't matter where I am or where the client is. I do advertising, marketing, and promotions law, intellectual property law, and privacy law, which all works together. And here's food for thought. If you have a website, which of course most of us do at this point, thanks to COVID, we are marketing nationally and internationally. So that means all 3 fields of law apply to you, and you need to be legally compliant with FTC law before you launch your marketing campaign. That's how the law is written. And of course, I also review, when I review your campaign, I review everything. And I want to make sure that you're protecting your IP before you launch publicly. And that's intellectual property, whether you have trademarks or patents or copyright material. And of course, you need to be highly aware of the privacy law issues, because it's not what you sell or where you're located. It doesn't matter how small or how big you are. Privacy law applies, and it's the who is visiting your website that makes which law applies, right? So you need to be highly aware of that. And of course, I'm not an ADA lawyer, but I do make sure that my clients are well aware of being ADA compliant as well, because there is an uptick of lawsuits for ADA compliance, and they're targeting small, medium businesses now, for what I'm hearing. All week, for the last week or so, all I keep hearing horror stories from small businesses. And unfortunately, they didn't know. So, trolls out there send letters, cease and desist, or whatever, or become legally compliant, and then they don't give them enough time to figure out what does that mean. So if anybody has questions on marketing law or intellectual property, if you want to file anything. Oh, I'm done. Okay. Well, great to see everybody. And Victor, just real quick, great. I like FetchPro. Thank you for all your help. He's incredibly patient, guys. So I have to say thank you. Have a great weekend, everybody, if I don't talk to you before. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mark, you're up.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mark Thiebel. I'm with Growth Strategy Advisors. What we do is basically pre-branding. So what we do is we do a lot of market trending, competitive analysis, positioning, go-to-market strategies, and a lot of the clients that I work for are private equity groups, investment banks, and I have some, private clients also. And often that will lead to customer experience work, which is something else that I do quite a bit of. And that's pretty much it. I do primary, secondary research, quantitative and qualitative, love interviewing, and that's what we do.
Can you give an example of some work you've recently done without revealing
Sure.
anything proprietary?
Sure, absolutely. Recently, some of the work we've done has been in the area of population health, where we were interviewing both large and small companies in that field and trying to determine how the whole market fit. And it's a very fragmented market except for a couple people. So, you know, everybody in that market is either data scientists, doctors, or both. In fact, usually it is both. And that was a very interesting experience. That basically humbled me because, you know, I learned, it's amazing what PhD data scientists and MDs know about population health. But I mean, we also do work in casino security. That was a lot of fun. And, you know, police and, you know, and some learning management systems. I mean, a lot of technology companies.
Thank you. Okay. And if folks want to put their LinkedIn profiles in the chat, that may be a good way for everybody to download them. The way to download it is if you go to the chat, on the bottom, there's a three-dot button. If you click that, the first option is save chat. And if you do that at the end of before we close out, you'll have everybody's LinkedIn that put it in there. Okay, so thank you very much, Mark. Victor, you've already gone. John, then Steve, then, I'm sorry, John Patch, Steve Goldner, then Jonathan Soroka. So John
Folks,
Patch.
John Patch, Tread4 Consulting. We are primarily a sales and marketing organization where we help people improve their sales and marketing processes, but we expand into other departments. Anything that is customer facing, we focus on the 360-degree view of a customer and what their customer experience is. So we help people improve processes if they exist or create new processes if they don't exist. And then we've got the tools behind us to implement automation of those processes and bring those efficiencies and a higher performance to the organization. So we also help people from a fractional perspective in sales leadership. So bringing on the opportunity to plug in sales management for X amount of time, that could be indefinite or it could be for maybe 6 months until they find somebody who is a better fit than maybe what they have existing, or if they're growing, they're implementing a new sales leader. So with that, Tread4, I've been in the business for, I've been in technology sales for 32 years, but specifically Tread4 has been around for 11 years now. We started in the CRM space and really have expanded into more of a strategic play so that we talk at a higher level and really get the 10,000-foot view, come in with our tool sets and help people develop those processes. In our experience with sales methodology, marketing methodology, helps them create a proven and repeatable process, and that's really important to us. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
That's good timing. It's only 5 seconds left, so thank you. Okay, so that takes us to our newest member, Steve Goldner, then Jonathan Soroka, then Jason Smith.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. Steve Goldner here. So I provide strategy planning and execution for clients in the area of brand strategy, product marketing, and content production. So a lot of the emphasis, I'd say, in the past decade has been on performance marketing, return on advertising spend, return on different areas. And I think that that has happened to the detriment of brand planning. So I've been with many organizations where the paid side of marketing is totally dislocated from the brand story. So my background in the past 13 years has been social marketing. And I think that when people think of social marketing, they think of a young millennial that knows all social platforms that doesn't necessarily bring marketing to that. So if you back up what you're going to execute in social marketing, you have to have a content plan and strategy. If you back up the content plan and strategy, you have to have a brand story. So I'm bringing together all of those areas. The big buzzword is storytelling. What does it really mean? It means telling a story that is compelling about what you do, is true and authentic, brand positioning, and then reinforcing that with communication strategies, definitions and execution, and how you disseminate that information.
Do you work in any particular verticals or industries?
I've worked at just about every vertical in the world, from CPG. My background in marketing is I was a product marketer and product management for tech companies. So I have a lot of experience in B2B. And in the social play, I think that there's been, and the content play, there's been more emphasis in the B2C play. So that's where opportunities has led me, more so in the previous handful of years, but I definitely see the B2B companies needing a story that's compelling. Look, in these days of, everyone mentions COVID, what are the lessons learned from COVID for me? It's about relationships. If you took away the line of, from The Godfather, it's business, it's not personal. I think that sentiment in business is ready to be flushed down the toilet. And it's very much about, while you may not be my personal contacts, I need to treat each individual and each employee and each consultant with that personal touch. And I think that's what people are looking for from brands, independent if it's in the B2B or B2C play.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Okay.
And good to be here. And thank you so much, Michael, for inviting me to this group.
Absolutely. I hope you get a lot out of it. Jonathan Sroka had to leave. I don't think he's still on. So we will jump to Jason Cement, then Raul, and then I'll go.
Hi, so my name is Jason Cement. I run a marketing agency called Get Visible. We have about 15 people working for us. We do two things. We build websites that are either WordPress based or e-commerce based, and then we get traffic, the right traffic. So that traffic either comes from search engine rankings, it comes from managing ad campaigns, or it comes from social media engagement. We have 5 teams in our office. One is a design team, one's a content development team, one does SEO, one does social media, and one does pay-per-click. And each team is 2 people. And then we've got developers, which is overseas. And then we have some management and me and my partner on top of it all. And I wrote a book called I Need More Clients. Wrote it a few years ago. Happy to send you guys a copy. I have a PDF version if you want it. You don't have to pay for it. And assuming it's a good read, of course. And we specialize, I would say, in distributors, not necessarily manufacturers, but distributors, sometimes manufacturing. So we have a very strong background in e-commerce because I started as a CPA back in 1990. Then I went to law school and I ran an e-commerce business for a decade. So I had, before I became the agency side of things. And we do a lot of work with service providers like lawyers and surgeons. And I dream about efficiencies and new ideas. So I'm fun to work with, I think. That's it.
And you're wearing, it looks like a hockey.
Today it's a Dan Marino jersey.
All right.
I'm too lazy to dress up for a big party later on Zoom, so I put on my jersey. It's enough.
So you feel the party before it happens.
I feel the party, right?
All right. Raul, you're up. Raul, you're on mute, Raul.
Sorry, I had to bring my cursor across the screen. Like Jason, I have sort of a similar background, but I have a media background. I started in television and then got into digital when streaming started. So I've been in the digital space and worked in agencies for a long time till I became a consultant. So now I work as a digital specialist. I help companies succeed in line. And that means I work with them to define and implement their digital strategy as it relates to increasing their overall business. And that could be a number of things. It could be just helping them define their strategy and operations. So that's like straight consulting. But I also have a team, so that can be competitive analysis of the market from the digital point of view. It can be often a website, a new website or optimized website, or replatforming, social media activation, SEO, and it can also incorporate video. It can, everything that's digital and online. And then I usually have a maintenance plan for my clients that can either be straight just technical, or it can include content, or depends what the arrangement is. Mostly I like working in the luxury space, but I actually work in all over. I also work in medical. I work in design, perfume, whatever it might be, because I've worked with a lot of people over a lot of time. I understand that I put together the right teams for the right client. Yeah.
Good timing. Okay. So I will go. I'm the last. I haven't forgotten anybody, have I? Sometimes happens. All right. No, I'm looking through. It looks like I've gotten to everybody. So I'll put the timer on for myself as well. My name is Michael Bendit, and my company is Software Development Resources. And as the name implies, that's exactly what I provide. So I represent about 10 different software development teams. Most of my work is with my dual shore teams. That means we've got some people here in the US, usually a handful, but most of the resources are offshore. And offshore for me is South America, Eastern Europe, and South Asia. Those are really the three areas that I work with, South and Central America. And my clients get the benefit of having the cost savings, but not the hassle of dealing with the direct offshore or dealing with offshore directly, and that which could be a hassle because of language barriers and cultural differences. Adding that on top of all of the technical translations that need to be done, and sometimes is a real bear. So I like that model of dual shore. I do have some domestic only teams. And I do have a couple of offshore only teams, but most of my work, as I said, is with my dual shore teams. Do a lot of work with small and medium-sized marketing agencies, providing that technical capability that they may not have in-house or they need to supplement. If something comes across their transom, that might not be in their wheelhouse. A lot of teams, for example, will have internal resources that can do WordPress and Shopify, but if something outside of that comes over their transom, be it mobile or Magento or some other platform that they're not familiar with, they often come to me and ask if one of my teams has that capability. Just recently got a request for Expression Engine, and we're working with an agency to help them and their client with that. It's an older content management system. So best leads for me are in fact small and mid-sized digital marketing agencies. So happy to talk to anybody who obviously has that type of agency in-house or has that type of agency and is considering outsourcing some of their work. Okay, that's pretty much it. We've got everybody who was on the call. Thank you, Steve Goldner, for joining for the first time. Raul, I think it's been a while. I'm not sure when you were last on, but thank you for joining. Couple of brief announcements. The website is still in process. I'm going to actually, what I'll do is I'll share my screen. I'm going to go to gallery view, bring up the website and show you where it stands. It's sort of in beta at this point. So this is where it stands. Everybody's going to have their own listing. So if you did a search for, this is one of our members, OCD, Media should show up. OCD media. The right search. This is a company you may know, David Edelman, his company. So everybody's going to have a listing under different categories. These are not the categories. The categories are digital marketing, all of the marketing services. You know, this is branding, but that's just a test, a test listing. He's actually does paid media buying, number of employees, average project size, and if you're offering a referral fee to other members. And then if you click on it, you'll see you have an entire page with a you know, a hero image. This doesn't have to be the same as your logo. This is the complete description, more information about the listing type, where you're located, up to 3 industries that you specialize in. It'll show where you're located, some qualifications. So if you're, you know, MWBE certified or some other certification I'll have in there. And this would be for the member who's online to contact you directly, either via phone, email, or go to your website or fill out a form here. And then recommendations, you can see there's a lot of lorem ipsum here, but the idea is that people will be able to recommend you just like they do on LinkedIn. So lots of test, as you can see. And only people who are logged in, so part of the network or logged in. You could have a customer log in and contribute as well. Think about, you know, I do have a preliminary listing, a category for everybody, but you'll be asked to sort of add industries that you specialize in, up to 3, as I mentioned. So that's another way of differentiating yourselves. And, you know, to the extent that possible, we'll try to promote this and make it, you know, visible. It is a publicly facing website. There will be some member-only pages for things that are internal, but this is what it will look like. So looking forward to launching that hopefully by the end of the year or early January.